Hi, I'm Kelly and I write the Weekly Rune, and I have been looking for a place to talk more about the runes in general, so I thought I would take a few minutes to do that here. So the Weekly Rune is a rune cast that I publish at soulintentarts.com, and I've been doing this since 2012. And this particular cast includes 3 runes, which are the half-month rune set by the runic calendar, and that governs for about 2 weeks, a fortnight, really, a little over 2 weeks. It has the intuitive stave, meaning I draw it blind, and that indicates the best way to work with whatever the emphasis of the half-month rune is for that week. And it also suggests kind of how we can handle whatever the half-month rune is bringing up. And then the final stave that I draw for that cast is the planetary stave, which is sort of what the planet or maybe what nature's memo is to us, kind of about that seasonal cycle. So if you're curious how I do the cast every week, you can catch a couple of my Instagram videos which explain the intention behind the Weekly Rune and what makes it different from other ways of casting. That's at Kelly Soul Arts at Instagram. That's KELLEYSOULARTS. So the one question that everybody asks about the Weekly Rune is, what's a half-month rune? Well, in the Elder Futhark, the original Futhark, there are 24 staves, which when you break it down means there's roughly every 14 and a half days a new rune becomes a focus. So who figured out what runes go where on the calendar? It's not exactly a new concept. Runic calendars or runic staves go back to ancient Norse times, and some of these calendar staffs actually still exist. That's when you go use the Googles. But over the course of time, the way we viewed time changed. And of course now it's an incredibly linear and restrictive concept, but then it was very much in flux and seasonal, driven by moon and sun cycles. So from that standpoint, how people viewed the timing of the runes in season would be very much in flux. But what was constant about the rune calendars, based on regions and cultures in the North tradition, they had certain staves that held down what we would call the Sabbats, but of course what were the holy days for those regions. And based on the work of Freya Aswin and Nigel Pinnock, we ended up with a pretty good way to look at those ancient ways of viewing how the runic calendars could have overlaid our current Gregorian calendar. So of course the way we track time is very rigid and linear and actually artificial in comparison to the way that their very fluid and elegant timekeeping system worked. But we have a pretty good way of doing that through the calendar that we have now. And actually I always encourage people to hold that still loosely and explore their own mapping of a runic calendar. But for the purposes of the Weekly Rune, it's based on the work of Freya Aswin and Nigel Pinnock. And I think it still creates really valuable insight into the seasonal influences that are happening each week. So check that out. You can subscribe to it at soulintentarts.com. That's SOULINTENTARTS.com. Or you can get the ad-free full Weekly Runecast by subscribing through my Patreon. That has a little bit more detail, and it comes on Sundays a little bit earlier than everybody else gets it through the regular subscription. But that's kind of, my take on working with the Weekly Rune, and I'd like to hear your take on runic calendars. And if you have any questions about the runes in general, feel free to direct them to me through Anchor or at my email, Kelly, Kelley, @soulintentarts.com.